So I'm doing something now that I've meant to do for quite some time, which is to make a video that covers all the points that I talk about when I coach Newbie Mixes, which I tend to do most weeks on Friday nights. And something I've noticed from listening to other coaches is that, different coaches, they emphasize different things and they talk about different things. And that is a very good thing. I don't think necessarily any one way is right or wrong. I think it's good to get a wide variety of information and then think critically and draw your own conclusions from it and take away all the things that you think are helpful to you. My ideas and my opinions, they're based on my experiences. Other people have different experiences, so they're going to have different ideas and different opinions. And that's fine. That's a good thing. So don't take anything I say as gospel necessarily. But I feel that in the past, it's proven to be pretty good based on the feedback that people have given me. The people say that the stuff that I tell them has been useful and helpful. So the first thing I do is I make sure that everyone knows how to join the server, which usually goes something like this. You look up Mumble, and at this point you've already been placed into the blue channel or the red channel by an admin who drafted the mix. And what you want to do is see that let's say it's the blue channel. The blue channel is located inside of the mix channel, like mix 1, mix 2, mix 3, one of those. And then you look to the side of the mix 1 channel, for example, and you will see that there's a little comment with a little C, letter C in it. And if you click that, it's going to pop open a little tab that should have a connect button, and that's your quickest way to connect to the server. If that does not work for you, which sometimes happens to people, just let us know and we will figure out another way to get you in, like with a manual connect string. Now, the next thing I do is I tell my team, please don't just run around and shoot the hell out of the enemy players, because they're walking around trying to learn stuff, trying to learn the map. Some of them are practicing their rollouts. Their coach might actually be playing, walking around, explaining things to them, and it would be very rude and unhelpful if you go and kill those guys while they're doing their stuff. And hopefully the coach on the other side also says the similar thing to his guys. But basically, if their team is coming with a fury to kill you, then obviously go ahead and kill them back. But don't just go picking on people that are trying to roll out and do their own thing. Okay, so when I coach, I don't normally talk about the callouts, what parts of the map are called, but since I'm doing a video, I might as well do a quick overrun of it. So here we are at mid, so we obviously have the health pack, the rock. This is usually called the awning. It's referred to this spot right here. Area above spawn, the little roof, the crates. So this right here is the door that takes you into sewer. This is sewer, and it used to look more like a sewer than it does now. Then this main way into 2 is called choke. And over here, this is called IT, or sometimes called PC in Europe, I think. Some other places in the world have slightly varying names for these things, but people will generally understand this is IT. Okay, once again, this is choke. This is sewer again, and over here on the side, this is called Al-Qaeda. I'm not exactly sure why. It's an old call out. I guess maybe because you can get bombed from here or something like that. So now we're into 2. So this is sometimes called the spire. Not quite as much of a spire as the one on Badlands, but it's still basically the same idea. It's a spire. So this is upper IT area up here. This is next to IT. Over here we have lobby. These doors, this is one of the forward spawns when you spawn going that way. The doors, see they have a big number here. Not everyone can see these because of their graphics configs. But generally, this is the shutter door, which is also door 1. This is rollout, which is also door 2. When we go into lobby here, we have door 3, and door 4, and door 5. So they basically go in a row like that. And here, of course, we're at last. And there's not a whole lot to say at last. I mean, there's obvious stuff like barrels. This area back here, the little panic room, is oftentimes called heaven. But there's a handful of names for that. And of course, you got your spawns, you got the point. Not a whole lot of other stuff to say. So from this perspective, it's shutter or door 1, rollout or door 2, door 3, door 4, and door 5. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at what items you want to use on your classes. So for Scout, you want the regular scattergun. That one's just the best. For your secondary, a pistol or a winger or the Pretty Boys pocket pistol. It just depends on what's legal and what's allowed. Those are all strong in their own rights and they have their own merits. And for your melee, you want to have a Boston Basher or a reskin of that. Sometimes it's good to be able to hurt yourself so that you can help your medic build his Uber at a good rate. Alright, on Soldier, you want to have your stock rocket launcher or the original, which is the Quake rocket launcher. That's fine as well. For secondary, generally you want to have gunboats on both soldier roles. A pocket can have a shotgun. That's fine. I'm going to talk a little bit later about why I think gunboats are the way to go. And you want the escape plan, which helps you run around quickly when you're at low health. Although occasionally some roamers will sometimes use the Market Gardener, which is, very risky, but that can be pretty good too, especially if you know how to use it. Alright, on Demoman we have our grenade launcher, although most people these days prefer to use the Iron Bomber, and to be fair, it is better in more situations. I would say maybe like 65-35, something like that. It is better than the stock grenade launcher. But I'm old school, so I like my stock, and it can do certain things that the Iron Bomber can't do, and I really like those things. And then we have our stickies, which is one of the best items in the game, so definitely want that. And then some sort of stock melee is what I recommend. Some people like the pain train. I've had my times with that. I'm not a huge fan. Basically, there's times where you'll survive with 5 or 10 HP, and then you think, well, if I had the pain train, I wouldn't have survived there against the scout or against any other hit scan. Because basically any hit scan weapons do more damage to you. So shotguns, heavies, sentries, sniper rifles, all these things end up doing more damage. So I'm not a big fan of that, but obviously the utility of being able to cap better is extremely strong and can absolutely win games. But I prefer stock melees there, or their reskins. And then for medic, we have our crossbow, which is, it's just so good. It's one of the best items in the game. It's basically overpowered. As much as I love the needle guns, yes, the needle guns are good if you need to defend yourself. You can't beat them compared to the other weapons that the medic has, but you're just basically throwing if you're not running the crossbow. It's that strong at healing your team up. And then, of course, we have the medigun. Or you can use the Kritzkrieg. Most of the time you're going to use the medigun, especially in Newbie Mixes, so we're going to mostly stick to the medigun. And as far as your melee, that should be the Uber Saw. That's the best one to go to, which is not what I have equipped here. Here I have a Amputator. I'm a little bit of a fan of that. I think there's a lot of neat things you can do with it, so that's sort of an option. But the real right answer there is, in fact, Uber Saw. Okay, so let's see. Some people here are crouching. The medic erroneously heals the pocket a little bit, but there we go. He gets the beam on the demo. The pocket has blown himself out of the door. That's fine. That's how he rolls out. And now here the medic is looking for his roamer. Come here, sweetheart. There we go. And he makes sure to heal his roamer before he does his first jump. It looks like he likes to jump off that pillar, which is fine. Sometimes they jump a little sooner. Now he's healing his scouts to go faster through the rollout. The Demoman's already arriving at mid. The roamer's doing his thing, kind of arriving at a casual rate there. And there we go. The medic throws a crossbow at his pocket there, heals him up, and the team is in mid. Alright, let's watch it from the medic's perspective here in normal speed. So there he goes, healing his demo. Now he's looking for his roamer. Taps him. Now he's healing his scouts. Might give the roamer a little bit of heals there, that's fine. Oh, he actually missed an arrow. Okay, and then he heals his pocket with the crossbow, and he heals him up with the beam. And that's it. They're in mid. As far as the Demoman's rollout, I'm going to break down all the individual parts. So you're going to spawn here, and then you have to make sure that you get healed by your medic before you do your static jump in the spawn. So you put your sticky at however far away you need, and then you jump, and as you're falling back down and you crouch, as you're already coming back down, you detonate to get closer to the door, something like that. Then from here, there's different options. You can put stickies here or here, or what I like to do is either here or slightly out here, so you can crouch that like this. That didn't even work quite right, but that has its difficulties. The easiest one is probably to just walk out and use the pillar like this. It's slightly slower, but that's how that works. And then over here, you basically put a sticky where the doorknob is, although if you're having problems not going far enough, you could do the same thing just on the edge of this shed. And that's basically how you get into mid. And all together now. And that's more or less the rollout. As far as the Roma rollout, just for fun, I want to show an old video. This is from 2012, from the earlier days of Process. An old teammate of mine named Urban Shakedown made a video of this, and it is up on YouTube. And this is a video of another old teammate of mine named Purple, and this is not Garbulio, this is not the guy that played Invite later. Purple here is doing a variation of the fast Roma rollout. This is not required. You do not have to go fast like this to have a good Roma rollout or to be a good roamer. But if you are able to do fast rollouts like this, it's definitely really scary for the enemy team. It puts a lot of pressure on them, and it gives you a lot of options of things you can do and ways you can affect the coming mid-fight. Or maybe even not mid-fight. It's possible to do this at other points in the game as well. Now, some caveats about what you see here. Purple is using the original, which is sort of a preference. That's the Quake rocket launcher. It is a preference, but it's not entirely a preference because it tends to be better at some things and worse at other things. For example, the last rocket jump off the ramp that you do to fly into middle, that's generally considered easier with the original. The video is a little bit blurry and it's got some motion blur going on, and it's a bit laggy looking, especially when he pogos off the point there, and that's just a byproduct of the STV demo that was used to record it. And this is the important bit. He tries to be extra fast, so what we did is we had a special heal order where he had our medic heal him before healing the demo, which was me, I was the demo, which is why you see him jumping early in the spawn towards the door. This is not normal, so don't do this. And being that extra bit quick is, once again, definitely not required. And the enemy Demoman was Hippo, and he was a very good player, but yes, you see that here he gets fragged pretty hard. He was being a bit aggressive by peeking to his left around the boxes after taking his health back, and he got juggled in and eradicated in spectacular fashion. Okay, so I'm going to do the pocket rollout here while wearing Gunboats. The exact details aren't particularly important here, but you basically end up doing something like this, and at this point you'd wait for your medic, and he would throw you an arrow, and then he would attach the beam to you and give you 300 health or something close to it, and then you walk into mid, and you're the last guy that gets to mid. Now, around this time when I talk about the Roma rolling out is usually when I mention that I really prefer both soldiers to use gunboats. Obviously, a long time ago, Pocket always ran shotgun, and it's still certainly done these days, but it's just such a good idea to use gunboats. They're just, you know, they amplify the soldier's best ability, which is, of course, his rocket jump. They allow you to rocket jump a lot, back to back, and not lose a ton of health. And that's the most important thing that a soldier can do. And so, you know, if you run a shotgun, I know some people really like their shotgun, and if you really want to, you can. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it means you have to take a lot more heals, and it means that your team, you know, your scout, your demo are going to get less heals because of that, and you're just not going to be able to be as mobile. And so generally you have to be really good and really make good use of that shotgun for that to be worthwhile. And like I said, I just don't recommend it. And of certain players that do like to run shotgun, a lot of them will have certain maps on which they don't run shotgun. This is the kind of map on which you usually don't run a shotgun, just because it's a big, wide open map where it's really good to heal scouts and your demo, and it's really good for a soldier to be able to do, you know, real quick stuff like this to get around quickly. Just take back-to-back rocket jumps. And see, that was half my health in 4 jumps, but how many times do you think I could have jumped if I had a shotgun? Like, half that maybe, and I would have been close to being dead. So definitely recommend Gunboats. And then, so even the players that will run shotgun on a map like this, oftentimes they will switch to Gunboats for mid-fights, because again, that's a great time to have extreme mobility on your side. And of course, like, this is not always the case. Like I'm saying, some people just run shotgun all the time. I mean, a shotgun can definitely win you a mid-fight or any fight, but I'm just hugely recommending Gunboats to all my newbies that play. As far as Scout, I don't really need to explain how to roll out a Scout. You just pretty much go the same way that your team goes, and then you run to mid. This is, however, when I like to mention the 2 Scout rules, which is, of course, your combo Scout and your flank Scout. And so let's just describe what that is. As a combo Scout, you're never going to be more than 2 seconds away from your medic. So you're always playing with your combo, with your pocket, your demo, your medic, always around there protecting them. And it's kind of a nice job because you have a lot of heals available to you. And a lot of times you get to fight people that aren't even trying to fight you. They're trying to kill your demo or your medic. However, there is a bit more responsibility. So you do need to anticipate where threats are going to come from and be ready to defend your team. You can't just go into mindless scout attack mode and chase down frags into the far corners of somewhere, because then you realize, oh, I left my medic here, and that's exactly when someone attacked my medic, right when I decided to forget about him. So generally you need more discipline, but it's a kind of a nice cushy job. The other role is the flank scout, which is generally going to work together with your roamer to cover the flank, which is any part of the map where your main combo is not securing and watching. So this role is, there's a little bit more freedom. You still need to be careful and obviously not die, but you have a little more freedom to take risks, to poke around. You don't always have to be quite as close to your medic, but you have to be a little more self-reliant. Your roamer won't always be there to help you. You have to rely on health backs. You have to play smart. Yeah, it's a little more independent. So, and one thing to mention is that on higher level teams, while these roles generally are defined, the players are much more flexible. So, like, they understand that, oh, if the combo scout is dead, then the flank scout will usually come close to the medic and stay there, because that's usually the most important role to fill. Or maybe if everything's fine in the combo and, you know, the flank scout's gone or dead or something, you know, the combo scout might run to the flank right quick to help someone just because, you know, it needs to be shored up over there, or there's something that he feels he can help real quickly because he knows there's no threat to the combo at that point in time. So basically what I'm saying is they're swappable. They know how to switch on the fly, and they can see which one's doing what, and the other one will go and cover the other role. That's not so much of a thing that newbies need to worry about. Just kind of realize that that is a thing. That's even a thing that happens with Pocket and Roaming Soldier as well. But as for now, just try to understand sort of what the positions are between combo and flank scout. Now I'm going to talk a whole bunch about the mid-fight and generally what each class is going to do and how to try and be effective. And this is where I like to say that during the rest of the game, there's generally a very clear indication what your team is doing based on sort of obvious things that are happening in the game. So, for example, if our team has Uber and the enemy team does not, well, that means we're going to be pushing. It also means we can figure certain things out from that. It means the enemy team is going to be holding far back. If they hold up close, we'll just Uber and kill them, which is great for us. That's what we want. But if they're smart, they're going to hold far back. They're going to be ready to run away. They might try to spam us as we come in through the choke points. They might try to force out our Uber. They might sticky trap us. They might try to send a sack, which means sacrifice, so like a suicide play, to try and force the Uber out in a bad position for us where it won't achieve anything except for, you know, killing that guy who sacked in. But then they're ready to run away. So, okay, that makes sense. What else? So, for example, in a different situation, let's say that we lose a player, so they now outnumber us. Well, they could start pushing, or they might send one of their guys again for a sack play. Those are all possibilities. Or how about we go down by more than one player? Well, they're definitely going to push. In one way or another, they're going to push. And we really can't stay in that fight because we'll get surrounded and swarmed and lose the fight. So as you can see, there's sort of a clear by-the-book method in all these situations as to how the whole team needs to play. Because if you stay, for example, where there's 3 of you and there's 5 of them, you're just going to lose that fight almost certainly. So you have to leave. But on a mid fight, it's not really like that. There's not these big clear indicators that tell you what to do, these huge advantages that you act on. On the mid fight, there's all these little tiny advantages that you make for yourself. Little bits of positioning, a little bit of damage here and there, some distractions. Eventually, a kill will go down. And at that point, it sort of starts to snowball, because let's say you kill one of them, now you outnumber them. Now, that might instantly change, because they might instantly kill one of you back, but it might not. And as soon as you start to outnumber them, and things aren't looking up for them, like they can't quickly return a kill, well, they have to try and leave. And you might be able to kill them while they're trying to leave. And, you know, they just can't stay in a fight where they're outnumbered. So, again, I'm going to talk about how to be effective as each class and what kind of things you're going to look to try and do. Okay, so as Demoman on mid fights, so let's kind of talk about how it's going to start. You're going to get to mid, and you don't have to go to your pack if you're going left, but you can. But if they have a fast soldier or something that's a threat to you, or their demo's really good at hitting you, you can just stay more or less passive. You don't have to get that pack. But you're going to decide whether you want to go left or right and kind of work that side, and you're going to announce that, and your team is going to try to emphasize the left or the right side of mid, generally. But after that, you know, you're welcome to take 1 or maybe 2 shots at the enemy demo, and it's really good if you hit them, but it's not a big deal if you don't. And at this point, this is the most important part. There's something that the Demoman class can do better than anybody else, and it's your biggest strength in any fight, and especially on a mid fight like this. And it is this: the Demoman can shoot at the high ground while not having to be up there. Right? So soldier can shoot rockets up like that, but that sucks. But look at what the demo can do. He can shoot up there and air detonate at any time with right clicking, obviously. And that is supremely strong. So what you want to do is try to be in a position where you can quickly shoot at the most high ground, and that's going to damage and kill people up there, or, you know, damage them so your teammates can kill them. Scouts and soldiers get a lot of benefit from taking high ground, and their guys are going to want to do that. And so what you're going to do is you're going to punish them by doing damage to them. Or they might become afraid of going up there because you know you hit them. Well, then they're not going to get the benefits of going to the high ground, and that means your team is going to be able to go to high ground, especially if their demo is not hitting your players. Or think about like this: if their demo man is dead, think about how much more freedom your teammates have to work on the high ground. Because if the enemy team goes up there, you shoot them. But your teammates go up there, well, the enemy demo is dead, so you can't shoot them. So, yeah, shoot at the high ground, most importantly. And one other thing is just be aware of your positioning. I'm not saying don't ever be here. This can be fine, but just be aware that if you're here, for example, this box, which is some high ground next to you, this is now too close to effectively shoot. You know, you can't quite get them with stickies. They fly too far. So you have to like pipe them, which is kind of, you know, a last ditch self-defense thing, or you'd have to like do something like this where you stick the sticky right on the corner. But good luck doing that while you're getting attacked. Like if a soldier lands here and he's shooting rockets straight down on you, you're kind of getting owned. So just keep that in mind. There's no one position that's perfect for everything, but there are places where, like from down here, for example, where you can quickly shoot at all the high ground comfortably. So just try to find that range where you can comfortably get your stickies. It's not too far, because if it's too far, you have to charge for a long time and shoot, and then the enemies aren't there anymore. And of course, it's not too close, because that's just ineffective. So you have to find kind of a happy middle ground. And the reality is it might not always work out that way. It's not like you're going to just sit on the ground while they let you shoot at them. You know, things might attack you. Things might play out badly. Just keep in mind that's your number one role, is to shoot at the high ground and control it without ever having to step foot up there. Okay, so medic on the mid fight. You're going to arrive to mid, and you're going to see where your demo is, and you might throw him a crossbow or just heal him for a few seconds because he might have taken some damage at this point, which is normal. And then after this, the most important thing that you can do as medic, at least in this current day and age, and this has been this way for a long time, but the most important thing you can do is to heal your scouts, okay? And it takes 2 parties to make that possible. You need to be looking for your scouts and be willing to heal them and be ready to prioritize them most of the time. And the scouts, of course, need to make themselves available to be healed. If they're running around somewhere, then, well, how can you heal them? And So it's just super strong, the scout class, and if we have our scouts alive later into the fight, it's the most efficient thing that you can heal is scouts. And you can do that most of the time with just a beam without having to use your crossbow. Now, conversely, what the worst thing you can do is if you have some kind of cowardly or lazy or incompetent soldier that's just walking around on the ground next to you, that's like the wrong way to play soldier. And if you spend a bunch of your time just healing him with your medigun, that's terrible. It takes forever to heal him up, and it's just like the worst waste of your resources possible. So don't do that. If there's a hurt soldier and you can quickly stop and throw him a crossbow, that can be great. That can be, it can change the outcome of the whole fight, but they can't necessarily always count on getting that crossbow, and that's not generally your priority. If you have scouts that need heals or that are fighting, you want to heal those scouts through the fight. And that is the most important thing that you can do on medic. And let me also just say, it's not all just about surviving. So if your team is going forward, which they should be at some point, they should not be, cowards. They should go forward and fight together. You should run with them and heal them through that fight, even if that means putting yourself in harm's way. The enemy team should not spend too much effort shooting you, because you're kind of hard to hit and you can dodge around and surf and stuff, and you're quick. And if they do spend a bunch of effort shooting you, that's good for your team, because they're expending their loaded ammo and their attention and their time on you instead of killing the actual threats, which are your teammates, the guys with the big guns. So that's also me saying that although there are strats where you can attack the enemy med, and that can certainly work out like a dozen different ways, generally no class should be going to mid with the idea of, oh, I'm going to go and kill their med real quick. Because their med is not a threat. As long as their medic doesn't have Uber or isn't close to having Uber, he's not the critical one to kill in the fight. You want to kill their fragging classes. Because let's say you run forward, aggressively healing your team, you are going to enable your team to win that fight because you went forward and weren't afraid. And you might die toward the end of that, okay? But let's say all the enemies died. So you won the fight. I mean, yeah, it's not great that you died, but you made your team win that fight. And it's probably going to be worth it in the end. So, I mean, there's definitely people that advocate for passive play, and there's definitely a time and place for it. And there's definitely a time and place to realize that this is screwed, and going forward is only going to make us more screwed, and I need to say, bye, idiots. If you're not going to leave with me, I'm leaving by myself. And that's fine. But what I want to instill in medic players is don't just be a little cowering, whimpering animal back there. Go forward and heal your team. That's going to make your teammates confident. It's going to give them health. It's going to make them win. And they will love you for it. Now, Scout class. So first thing I want to say is that the Pocket Scout, the Combo Scout, he is the main pocket player on mid. He is the one that's going to stay with your medic the entire time, hovering around him, taking heals, defending your medic, your demo, all this kind of thing. The Flank Scout, you're welcome to also be available to be healed. You have a little bit more of like a long leash situation where you can venture off a little more and you can take more risks and stuff like that. But if you want to get healed, then there's no reason why you can't also hover around your medic, and your medic should be able to heal you at some point, which is of course very important. So the thing about Scout on mid is you want to avoid taking damage and you want to avoid dying. You need to survive later into the fight. And of course getting healed is part of that, and not taking damage, right? Because if you survive late into the fight, if our scouts survive, then there's a very good chance that we can win that fight. Okay, because later on in the mid fight, all the heavy classes, they're low on ammo, they're slowly reloading, they're just in bad shape, and that's when you can run around and clean everyone up. Just get a bunch of kills and be the hero and win the mid fight. So it's really important. Like if we lose our scouts early, the situation is kind of hosed. So dying as a scout early is a very, very bad thing. And now here's the real silver lining here, or the real stickler is, sometimes I say this to my newbies, like, hey, you gotta not die, not take damage, and be careful. And what they do is they get to mid and they just hide back here. Like, they just play super passive. But the thing is, that doesn't work. If you just completely cower in the back, that's like not showing up to the fight at all. That's like you almost may as well sit in the spawn, or go sit inside sewer or something. That's how helpful you are. So what that means is that you actually do have to go forward at least a little bit. You do have to take risks. Now that doesn't mean be an idiot. So being really stupid would be to just hold W at people and run into their side and just start fighting everyone here. And well, you're surrounded by the whole enemy team, and then they kill you. Well, they'll probably kill you. That's stupid and bad. But you do need to go forward a little bit, and you do need to threaten the enemy players. And you want them to be aware of you. You want them to be like, oh crap, there's a scout here, and he's shooting at me. And oh, he might run at me at any moment, and then they shoot back at you. And the thing is, you're hard to hit, and you should be hard to hit. So you actually want the enemy players to shoot at you. You just don't want them to hit you very much, obviously, because then you're dying. If they're shooting at you, then that means they're wasting their ammo on you. That means you are holding their attention, right? So that means they are not shooting at your teammates. They are not killing your teammates with that ammo. So even if you're doing seemingly very little, you're still having an impact on that fight, and a positive one for your teammates, because those guys are shooting at you and not at your teammates. So that's a little bit of pressure off of them. So it's up to you to sort of find this balance between rushing forward and going back. And you can do this thing where you can pretend like you're rushing forward and then you run back a little bit and reset yourself. And that's fine and good. You know, go forward, move back. A general rule of thumb is, you know, if someone is aware of you, like if you're locking eyes with an enemy player and you're kind of maybe shooting at each other, you don't really want to get close and engage them unless you see them take a bunch of damage or you hit them really hard. Well, then you can just run in and try to finish them real quick, right? But otherwise, you just want to maintain a distance. But at some point, there's going to be an opportunity for you to shoot someone that's either unaware of you or uninterested in you. Like maybe you're hanging out back here, being passive, staying safe, and then suddenly you see an enemy soldier bombing at your Demoman or at your medic or something. Well, that's great. You just go and you start fighting him. It's really nice. You get to fight people that aren't even trying to fight you. And you get to run in on him. He's not really aware of you too much probably, and you kill him. Or another example is, let's say you and an enemy scout are squaring off against each other, and no one's really doing anything. You don't really want to run into that because it's an up-close fight that can go badly real quick, and maybe you'll run into multiple enemies. But then suddenly your soldier jumps up and over into them, and that scout does one of these things where he's like, you know, trying to defend against the soldier. He's not looking at you anymore. As soon as you see that happening, well, now you can run up closer to him and really lay some damage on him, and you'll likely kill him. But maybe, let's say, you missed most of your shots, and now he's only worried about you again. Well, you could duke it out up close, and maybe you're better, maybe you'll win. Or, again, if you see that he's looking at you, you can just back up again and play slower, play safer. You'll actually be surprised at how much damage it's possible to do from mid-range with Scout. If your aim is steady, and you put the crosshair right at their center of mass, even from quite a distance, Scout hits surprisingly hard. Like, you can hit 40, 50, 60 damage sometimes, depending on the range and the size of your target, without ever having to get super close and put yourself in danger. So just kind of try to balance your risk taking. Definitely stick your neck out there a little bit, take some risks, but try to survive late into the fight, and it's going to be just what your team needs to win. All right, so soldier on mid fights. I think something I already mentioned is that both pocket and roamer, you're both just soldiers on a mid fight. You're both just basically roamer, and you're going to do whatever it takes to be individually effective as a soldier and help your team win. And that basically means, in most cases, it means that at some point you're going to get aggressive and play aggressively, and you're going to be doing rocket jumps and maybe bombing in, things like that. Not always, but oftentimes. And the thing that I always say to my players is, it's this. It's do not be afraid to die as soldier if the play that you make is going to help your team win the current fight that you're in. So it's okay for you to die as long as your actions enable your team to win the fight. Now, I'm not saying you should always die. In fact, a lot of times it's possible to do the same thing that maybe you just did and you died. It's possible to do that and not die. And that's huge. That's very powerful if you can become better as a player and do that. And conversely, it's also possible to go in and jump into the entire enemy team and achieve nothing or next to nothing and die. And obviously that's really bad because you're just going one down in the fight and you're not achieving enough. And so one thing that you might be able to figure out is it's super important to communicate. A lot of players have a hard time talking in this game, especially flank players and soldiers and scouts and whatever. But it's just so important to say, I'm jumping, or I'm on their demo, anything. Say it loudly, say it enthusiastically. Otherwise, if you just jump silently and you see something good and you bomb, your teammates don't even realize you bombed a lot of the times, okay? And they'll do nothing. They'll continue spamming and having their own little fights and whatever they're doing. They don't even realize you did an action. And let's say you did a couple hundred damage to a couple guys, and then they killed you, and you didn't kill anyone. And then but your team never crossed the point, never followed up. Right now, if you were like, oh guys, I'm jumping, I see a bunch of them clumped up, I'm jumping, and then you attack them, I hit their demo, your teammates hear that, they see that you're jumping, they will now cross the point, scouts, demo, soldier, whatever, and based off of the damage you did and off of the fact that maybe the enemies all moved back or they're all clumped up or whatever, your teammates will run forward and get kills, and then you will win the fight. So definitely be vocal, at least when you're jumping. And like I said, don't be afraid to make a bold move at some point. Now let's just talk briefly about the kind of things you can do as soldier. Now obviously height is great for soldier, right? Because it helps you actually hit rockets. The more down you're shooting, the more likely you are to hit a rocket. And that's simply because, for example, let's see, the difference between shooting this health pack and the corner of this railing, look how much I move my mouse. Not very much. But now let's see the same difference from here. This isn't even a good place to do this, but like, how much do I have to move my mouse to shoot the health pack versus the railing? Oh, now it's like a tiny fraction of that, right? And so this is the kind of precision that you start to, it becomes difficult as soldier, basically. Whereas up here, well, this is just so easy to shoot exactly where I want, okay? That's just a really obvious explanation of why high ground is good for soldier. But, so let's say you jump to high ground and you see there's enemies kind of close. Let's say they're right here under you. Well, you're just going to shoot them and blast them. You're winning right now because you're killing them. This is great. Let's say the enemies are kind of far away. Well, you could spam a shot or two and then reload. That's always the way to go. You always want to make sure your rocket launcher is as loaded as possible. You don't want to, like, spam all 4 shots because then you're going to be a sitting duck if something goes down right then. You won't be able to react properly. So make sure you're loaded. You might spam them a little. You're not going to kill anyone, but hey, if the spam is landing, maybe keep doing it. If not, you might do something different. What else can you do? Well, you can, like I said, you could jump at the enemies. You know, you could arrive to mid or something and then suddenly jump into people. You can jump to the high ground and jump again off the high ground and do a really tall bomb. Okay, all kinds of different ways you can do that. You can jump in and steal health packs and then jump out. You can deny enemy players health packs. You can, let's say there's a fight over there. You can jump in like this and then go over here to the side where no one, you know, there's no people here. There's a mid fight. Now you're basically going behind. You're going into a flank and they don't know. You probably don't want to go and rotate around the long way. That's usually not worth it. But if you're around this corner, that's terrifying to them. They don't see you. They don't know. Maybe you are going all the way around, or maybe you're going to emerge in 1 second, or maybe you're going to emerge in 5 seconds. Who knows? That's all scary to them. And so at some point, if anyone walks here, they're dead, or maybe you wait a few seconds and nothing's going on, and you come out again, and you're able to attack them again and reassess the situation. Now it'll be different. Now people will be maybe in different places. What else can you do? You can, you know, same idea. You can go behind them. You can pretend like you're bombing them. And then be, just kidding, I'm actually going to go behind you and grab a health pack. Now they're terrified because someone's behind. Is he going to just come right back out, or is he going to come out of this door and attack them? Again, going around the back is usually not worth it, but it can definitely be huge sometimes. What else? I mean, that roughly summarizes things. So you're looking for damage, you're looking for kills. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. You're looking for distraction, you're looking for stealing health packs. All these different things you can do. And if you do commit, just say I'm jumping and say what you're doing damage to. That's really strong. Another strong thing is, let's pretend the enemies are all clumped up over there because they're getting hurt or they're losing people or whatever and they're scared. Whenever there's people clumped up in one spot, that's the time to bomb. Now the obvious thing to do is just go like this and land in the middle of all of them. That can be okay, that can totally win, but you're probably going to die in 2 seconds. So what an even better option is, if you see that situation, notice how there's a piece of high ground next to them. Let's say the enemies are right here where my crosshair is. So what you would do is you would jump up here, and now up here you're shooting them, and you're not splashing yourself with your own rockets. You're not taking as much fall damage maybe as you would landing down there. And now you're a living soldier off from the side, and you're able to keep pounding them with rockets. And look how it looks from, now I'm the enemy, pretend I'm the enemy. Look how it looks from their perspective. They're looking at your teammates, but now they have to look over here. There's a soldier raining down on them. So they have to look way to the side and up and worry about you, which means your teammates can run forward at them. And remember how I said you would die in 1 or 2 seconds if you landed on top of them? Well, here you might live 1 or 2 seconds longer. Let's say you'll still die. Okay, that's fine. But from here, that means you're able to reload again and shoot some more and continue to damage and kill them with rockets. Or maybe you're not hitting any of your rockets, but you're still drawing their eyes to the side. You're drawing their attention in all different directions. You're being a huge nuisance, and that means your teammates are probably going to win that fight. So tons and tons of ways to be effective. And one last thing I want to mention for Soldier is that with regard to high ground, oops, 60 seconds. All right, so if you take high ground like this isn't your final destination. Like I said, you might be killing people if they're close or spamming them, but the moment you're up here, if the enemy Demoman sees you, he's going to charge stickies and try to launch them in your face up here, and that's going to make you sad real quick. Enemy scouts, as soon as they have line of sight to you, they're constantly chipping and chipping and chipping away at you little by little. That adds up pretty quick. Enemy soldiers, if there's an enemy soldier kind of up close like this and he sees you up there, he's going to jump at you and start raining rockets down at you. You're going to probably try to have to go for air shots on him. That might be cool, but that's not ideal, okay? So the point is, high ground isn't just the final great place to arrive at. Lots of bad things can happen up here. So don't feel that you're obligated to stay up here. Go up here and assess the situation. Is there people that you can readily shoot? Great. Is there, is bad stuff coming? Are stickies about to fly in your face? Are scouts about to kill you? Is a soldier about to jump you? Well, you don't have to stay up here. You can drop back down. This probably isn't where you drop down. You probably drop down somewhere out of sight. And reset yourself. If you need to, go grab a health pack. Maybe the medic can even toss you a crossbow real quick, but maybe he can't, so don't count on that. Reload your rocket launcher to make sure you're freshly loaded. Wait a couple seconds, and then go up here again. And now what do you see? Well, now the situation's different. The enemies that were shooting at you, they now forgot about you. Maybe now there's someone close to shoot. Maybe now there's clumped up enemies that you can jump into and make a play on. So just don't feel like you have to stay on high ground and stay there to the death when bad things are gonna, kill you up there. So, basically just be creative as Soldier. Do whatever you have to do to distract, damage, be a nuisance, make a play, and be vocal if you are making a play. Now, something I've already mentioned, but it's worth saying again, is communication. It's super important. A lot of people, they can't talk and fight. They can't do multiple things at the same time. Now, obviously, if you have to fight or talk and you can only do one, you're gonna fight. You're gonna not talk. But realistically, it's important to try and build habits and learn how to speak. Whether that's in your brain to expand that, or learn how to use your finger for push to talk or whatever. It's very important to say stuff in this game. It's super helpful. I would say it's better if your team is a little bit too talkative and it's a little too crowded in the comms than the opposite situation where not enough people are talking. So what are some important things you can say? Well, for example, if you see someone, an enemy player that's kind of extended forward to you and you want to attack him, or you're already fighting him, you can say, hey, shoot the scout, shoot the green scout, or soldier took 50. So anybody can do that who's fighting, and that's really good for your team to hear. If your teammates can understand from that there's a fight going on, maybe I'm nearby, maybe I can help, and maybe I'll shoot the same guy as the guy I'm hearing called, because focus fire is what wins this game a lot of times. It's multiple of you guys shooting the same enemy bad guy so he dies real quick. What else can you say? I'm dead. When you die, it's super good to just say, I'm dead. That sounds obvious, it sounds redundant, but people in the heat of battle, they don't realize it. They don't have awareness necessarily to see the kill feed every moment of every moment basically. So saying I'm dead is very helpful for your team to know when things are going sour and to keep track of how many of your teammates are dying. If you're the medic, it's super good to say we used or we Ubered, and then to say they used, so your team can gauge by how badly or how good the Uber exchange is going based on when they hear we used versus they used. If we used and then there's a long pause and then they used, that's kind of bad. They have a much better and later Uber. That means we're probably going to be running away from that Uber and not going forward and feeding into the Uber and dying. And in general, medics should talk about Ubers. So who has advantage? Mention it. Talk about it. Even if it sounds redundant, just talk about it. Oh, by the way, guys, we have advantage, and that means we're going to be pushing soon. And is that advantage by a little or by a lot? Because that also has implications in the game. Now, a quick note about off-classing, which is using the classes that are not Soldier, Scout, Demo, Medic. We want to avoid it in Newbie Mixes as much as possible, unless it involves pushing the enemy last point or defending your own last point. And, okay, well, why are we avoiding it? What if it works? Well, of course, there are a lot of times when it works. And the reasons for that, there are multiple. Basically, the lower the level of play, the newer the people are on both sides, the more likely it is to work, because they don't see it coming. I mean, it can work at any level as a surprise factor using, weird classes, but they don't see it coming, and they just don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with off classes. And at a higher level, it's used very sparingly, because basically the cookie cutter sixes classes are the best for the job. The game mode was crafted to where they are the best for the job. So it's not by accident. And the other classes, they're all very specialized. They're good at certain little things and then really bad at the other time. Whereas the normal sixes classes, their main strength is mobility. It's being fast to get around the map and fast to go help out in fights and fast to move together. And other classes, they lack that, and they're all very punishable in different ways. So, like I said, especially Newbie Mixes, we want to avoid doing that sort of thing. I want to talk a little bit about the layout of the maps and how it plays out in the way the game works. So, in TF2, what you have are numerous arenas that are connected together by narrow choke points. So for example, if we look right now, we're at mid. This is one big arena, okay? And let's talk about 2. We'll just talk about mid and 2. And so the second point over there, this is also a big arena, a little bit smaller maybe. And these arenas are connected. So in this case, we're connected by 3 choke points. We have this one. Notice how it's like a narrow area. This one's literally called choke. And then we have right here, we have sewer. So that's another way to go from a middle to 2 and back. And of course we have IT over here, another narrow area, which again takes us from middle into second point, or vice versa. So a lot of action happens at these choke points, and also a lot of inaction when there's stalemates. But it's super important to understand that if there's a critical moment, you don't want to hang out in these places, right? Because there are places that are a lot of spam collects, and it's hard for people to miss. It's hard for the enemy to miss you in here, and for you to miss the enemy when you're in this narrow area, right? So anyone that's hanging out here and going through here is likely to get hit. And that's the critical time, like if, for example, if it's a 6 versus 6 situation, and for some reason the enemy team just starts pushing and you're set up in your normal positions and you're ready, you're going to destroy them, because they're going to get hit by a bunch of damage as they walk through that narrow area, most likely. And then you guys will clash, the teams will clash, and you'll probably win, because you have already damaged them as they initially walked in. And that's basically your defender's advantage. And so another real simple way to describe defender's advantage is, and I'm going to make a little diagram, but basically imagine this choke point. In this case, I drew sort of like a 90-degree alleyway, and you have your blue team, they're ready, and they're set up in the good positions, and they're pointing at it. And you have the red team, and they're set up in their good positions, and they're pointing at that one area, the only area where you can get from one side to the other, right? That middle spot, which I've denoted with the skull and crossbones because everything dies in there. And so both of these teams right now have their defender's advantage. And this is a stalemate. This is how you get a stalemate, because let's say both teams have Uber or whatever. This doesn't even have to be TF2. You can imagine this is real guys with guns, or it's Counter-Strike or something. Basically, excuse me, there's no advantage. No one has Uber. There's the same number of people alive on both teams. So which team do you think is going to go? The blue team or the red team? Who's going to want to go and walk through that choke and start fighting? Well, whoever does that is going to walk into the other side's defender's advantage. And they're going to be instantly at a disadvantage. They're going to be getting shot, right? And these guys are sitting behind their boxes. They're ready to shoot whoever shows up. So that's sort of the basis for how stalemates work in TF2 and why defender's advantage is so strong. Overall, the game is just generally defensively favored. It favors defense. And so the one fine point to make here is that, let's say there was a messy fight and the enemy players just quickly ran away and maybe they're trying to heal up and not all of them are alive. That might be the time, if you outnumber them, or maybe you feel like you have some momentum, they're hurt or whatever, that might be the time to bust through that dangerous area, through the choke, and get in real quick and start fighting, because they haven't set up yet. But if you wait a little while, they all get healed up, they know what all the good positions are to sit at and hold those chokes down, and once they take those positions, it becomes very dangerous, almost suicidal, to try and walk through that choke. And once again, you arrive at a stalemate situation. Okay, I'm going to talk a bit now about Ubers. So let's say that you have Uber advantage, a pretty good one, a big Uber advantage, and the enemy team is back there on their last, and they don't have it. And you do. So that means, of course, we're going to push. And we'll just keep it simple, and we'll say they're on their last, so their back's against the wall, they have nowhere to go. They can't keep running away farther back. That means that you're going to want to decide, okay, what door are we going to go through? 1, 2, 3, whatever. And let's say we're going to go through 3. You want to make sure to take multiple people on this Uber. You want to pick generally 2 people that are going to get the Uber. That's the safe thing to do. 3, you can kind of do. It becomes a little harder for the medic to keep track of everyone and not, fail to save people, stuff like that. But you're going to decide who you're going to take. Okay, so let's say it's going to be your pocket soldier and your combo scout. And you're going to decide at what point you need to use through, because at some point, the longer you wait, the riskier it gets. And then you just pop your Uber on your soldier, and then he goes and jumps in. And you pop through on your scout, and your scout runs in. And then you're over here running, and you're trying to catch up to your soldier, and then reflash him again. And so that's just a rough example of how to do this. And it's good if someone confidently calls that. It could be the medic, but it's usually better if it's the people that are actually going to take the action, like say the pocket here or the scout or whatever. But one important thing is, if you have advantage, don't take a solo Uber. That means don't just Uber one of your dudes, right? If you Uber one of your players, that's just a waste of potential in your Uber. Your Uber, it's doing a very important thing. It's trying to kill people, obviously, but you're also clearing these thin doorways, these tight quarter doorways. That's the dangerous places where you guys can die. You can die to sticky traps, get sniped, eat spam. It's hard to avoid damage when you're in this narrow area, right? So you're clearing those areas by being invulnerable, helping your team get in and spread out, and also just to kill people. Like, it's hard for one of your guys to kill people. If the enemy decides to run away, it's difficult for one player to bear down on him and kill him. He might do that, but it takes him a while. You really got to work for it. And before you know it, your whole Uber's gone. So you've done what? You used your Uber on one guy to kill one enemy guy? That's no good. You need to bring multiple of your dudes in, see who you can catch out, focus fire, and get multiple frags with that Uber, at least 2, right? So that's when not to solo. Now let's talk really quickly about when to use a solo Uber. So first of all, whenever you pop Uber, whenever you use your Uber, or any charge with your minigun, or crits or whatever, but let's just say Uber. You pop your Uber, it goes down quicker. Like, it drains out faster every time you flash to another player. So if you need to flash one guy, and then you need to save this guy and flash him, and then you go back to the first guy, and then you need to save this guy again. That's like a couple of flashes. Your Uber will be gone in, I don't actually know how long, 5 seconds or something, or 4 seconds, whatever. Normally, if you keep your Uber on one dude, that can last up to 8 seconds, which feels like a small eternity in TF2. That's like a nice long Uber. And so there's times that you want to have a nice long Uber like that, and then there's times when it's better to make it shorter but get people in, like I was saying earlier, to get people into last or into a fight. Or if it looks like your teammate is about to die or even get really hurt and you see that as medic, it's usually worth it to flash them to keep that from happening. Yes, you'll have a worse Uber, but your hand was forced. It's better than losing that guy or having him be so hurt that he's going to die in a few seconds anyway. But I digress. So basically, that's how flashing Uber works. It drains out faster the more you flash. Also, keep in mind, if you flash to no one, that is also a flash. So if you have your beam on your soldier and suddenly he jumps away and you're like, oh crap, you're not even here with me, are you? And you catch him, you flash him again, that's a flash. In fact, that's 2 flashes, I believe. Because when you're healing no one, that is also a flash. when you're changing your heal target. So, final note is about actual solo Ubers. So those are the times that you want to have a solo Uber, which usually occurs on your pocket. Not always, but usually. Sometimes your hand is forced to do it on other classes. And what you need to do is, a solo Uber is when a pocket soldier, at some point you have to exchange Ubers, right? Like let's say that there's a stalemate and then one of their flank players dies, or just whatever, one of their players dies. Well, now what? Well, you could throw your own guy in and sack him in and see if that works, or you could start pushing. But both teams have Ubers, so what does that mean? Well, that means that you need to try and exchange Ubers with them, and you want to have that Uber go favorably for you. And what that means, and this is difficult to do, this is some of the difficult work that usually falls on pocket soldiers, but what you need to do is look for a situation where there's a bunch of enemies clumped up together, and that you as a pocket soldier are going to take that whole Uber and you're going to get into those enemies and you're going to quickly force the enemy medics. So usually you'll end up using first, because I'm kind of assuming that you're walking into their defender's advantage. But then you quickly rocket jump into a bunch of enemies, okay, and you start shooting the hell out of them. Their medic has to use his Uber, and their medic has to flash around between one guy, between the other guy, because you're a threat to everybody. And suddenly, even though you popped first, their Uber is now wearing out quicker. So ideally, you would say that both Ubers are going to wear out about the same time. And so that right there, I just described to you a pretty good solo Uber. So anytime as a pocket you see an opportunity to like, hey, I could have a solo Uber here that's really good. Now, it's not generally great to just go trade Ubers. That's how they used to play a long time ago, especially in Europe. They would just constantly trade Ubers. And not a lot would get done. But the thing is, it's when you're walking into their defender's advantage, it's very easy for that to go badly. So I'm not saying to just do this all the time. I'm saying to do it not frequently, infrequently. But it can be very strong to trade Ubers and to understand how to make it favorable. You want them to flash it around, or if the enemy medic doesn't flash his players, well, they're losing dudes, they're dying. That's favorable for your team. And so really in these Uber exchanges, what's critical is what happens immediately after the Uber exchange. So before your Uber completely wears off, whether you're the soldier or the medic or whatever, you want to go and take a good position. As a soldier, you don't want to be sitting there with 0 rockets trying to finish off some guy that you probably won't be able to finish while your Uber wears off. Let's say you still have like 30% left on your Uber. You want to be like, okay, I'm going to back off. I'm going to load a few rockets and take high ground and get on good positions from which to fight. Now, if the enemy players come out and start fighting you, which often happens, there's like a messy fight after Ubers go down. Well, now you're fighting from good positions where, like, you can rain rockets down on them or deny them. If I'm a scout up here, I can just deny rocket jumping soldiers. Or maybe I'm up here as a demo, locking out all the doors, shooting down on them with my stickies or something. So look to have a good fight after Ubers are exchanged. And I know I just said a whole bunch of stuff back to back, but hopefully you can get something useful out of it, because that was a lot of low-key useful information. Okay, I'm going to try to be a bit brief here, and I'm going to talk about where everyone should be holding. Now, if you're holding, that means as a team you are holding, and that means everyone has their positions and places where they need to be and things that they're expected to watch. Also, for every place you hold, there's a normal hold and then there's a passive hold. Normal means that it's even Ubers and the situation's even, and maybe it's going to be a stalemate. And basically what a normal hold does is it prevents the enemy from clearing those narrow choke points. It has a hold on those choke points. Or maybe you're going to be pushing soon. That's the same idea. You're going to not let them in for free through those choke points, and then maybe at some point you'll start pushing. If it's a passive hold, that means that the enemy is about to come in and overrun you with numbers, or generally with Uber. Let's just say they have Uber. You're not going to hold up close. If you hold up close, normal style, they'll just Uber through, bust in, clear the chokes with invulnerability, get on top of you where he can't run away and kill you. You don't want that. So let's talk at last. So if you have time to set up a sentry gun over here, especially if you know you're going to get Uber and you don't have your own Uber, yeah, that could be really good. Or it could be at this side, doesn't matter. So obviously you don't have to die with your sentry gun. You can let your gun die and it'll waste some of their Uber, and then you go back here and you switch back to scout. Same thing with heavy. On a map like this, it's super strong. You could be a huge bitch and basically stand back here wherever you can. You won't be able to see everything, but you'll be able to shoot them enough and draw their aggression. And the moment it looks like they're coming to seriously kill you, don't let them. Don't let them actually kill you. So if it looks like an Uber's gunning for you or a bunch of players turn their attention to you, just stop spinning up and then go back in here and change back to scout. And now you've wasted a bunch of their time and ammo and attention on something that resulted in nothing and no kill. You're just back to being a scout or a new heavy or whatever. There's multiple ways to do this. Now let's actually talk about holding. So if we're holding normal, your medic will be somewhere around here. It's kind of a variety of places you can be. And your demo man's going to lock down this shutter door, and he's going to have stickies over here. So generally a demo locks down the right side of the map. Your pocket's going to be hanging out around here with the medic. He can have a little bit of freedom to go over here, and if he wants, the medic can sort of follow him a little closer. And we have our roamer, who generally hangs out. It's up to you kind of how aggressive you want to be, maybe somewhere over here. Don't get too comfortable in lobby, because suddenly their entire team might show up here and instantly own you. So be very careful hanging out here. You can be here, but always be ready to run away. And that's sort of a rule on the flank, is don't commit to the death to hold flank. That's not really how it works. You just want to make sure nothing comes in for free. That's the main job of the flank. And as far as the scouts, you have a little bit of freedom. You're probably not going to have 2 scouts if you're defending. You might have a heavy. At a heavy, if it's a normal situation, you're going to sit somewhere where you can see a lot of doors, because the most likely thing to happen is a soldier is going to fly in and try to force your medic if it's a stalemate. You want to be somewhere where you can instantly spin up and mow them down out of the sky. And, you know, a bad position would be like, oh, I don't know, if you're holding his heavy and you're like, this or something, right? Like, what do you see? You see this, maybe this if you turn to the side. That's dumb, right? Like, imagine here, you have a big, wide open view of everything. You see this door, this door, this door. You see literally every door. Nothing can surprise you and get on your medic, assuming your medic is, you know, back here or something like that. And the other scout has some freedom, you know, maybe go over here and just be safe and help your roamer in case anything goes down. But there's a little bit of flexibility with Offclasses on last. And so holding passively, it's very similar, but let's see, as Demoman, you need to be like as far back as it takes to not die. You're the #1 guy they want to kill. If that means you have to be here and run into the spawn, then that's what you got to do. As a medic, you're probably going to be hanging out up here, and you need at least 1 guy with you here, maybe your pocket or maybe your scout or something. Someone that you can heal on. And wherever the enemy comes from, if they come from over here, well, you're just going to hang out here for a while, and it'll take them a few seconds to get to you. And it might take them so long that you can just run away if they go left. If they come right into you, well, you go, okay, well, you run through here. And you waste their time. You might not survive, but all of this is effective kiting, which could lead to you surviving, which means healing more, which means maybe getting your own Uber, etc., etc. Now, of course, they could send dudes from both sides and pinch you, but a lot of teams aren't coordinated enough to do that, and it might not work out for them. So I mentioned soldier, I mentioned demo medic. Scouts, you kind of have free reign. A demo, if they're pushing last, it's good to have some stickies on last. Otherwise, they're going to come in here and start capping the point, at which point, you know, your hand is forced to jump on it or just get capped, or jump on it and die, jump on the enemy demo stickies who's also sticking it. So try to have some sticks, try to have them spread out. Don't just put like 3 in the middle, because then they can just stand on the corner or just shoot once and clear them. Make them spread out, make them around the border. That's the best place to put them, even more important than in the middle. And soldiers, my one advice is don't just like fight Ubers. If an Uber is coming for you, don't just stand there and just fight it with your face and die to it. Like, okay, if they're not aware of you, you can kind of shoot rockets at them and juggle their feet, and that could be helpful. But if they're coming for you, then just leave. Just be like, okay, rocket jump away. Go somewhere else. Survive. Preserve your life. Maybe rocket jump again, go reset in the spawn. Or maybe you rocket jump away from their Uber, somewhere over here to another door. Maybe their flank players are waiting to come in, and you can start a fight with them. Maybe they'll be surprised by it. Maybe you can win the fight. Anyway, I'm getting a bit long-winded because I'm talking a lot about last. But, okay, let's talk about how we're going to hold this. If we're holding this passively, that means they're about to come in on us. So your medic and demo, you're going to play either back here by shutter, so you can quickly close this and put a roof over. You can't get bombed in here, right, because there's a roof over your head. I mean, they can still land here and shoot rockets in, but you can't get bombed from on high. Or you can hold up here on bats, similar idea. The medic and demo are ready to retreat real quick. And again, here, look at this. You're going around a corner. There's a roof. You can't get bombed. Then you're going around another corner. All this is making it difficult for people to, for the Uber to go after you, or for players to go after you and kill you. And everyone else, well, soldiers can sit somewhere like up here or here. Soldiers and scouts have a little more freedom. You want to have someone, maybe your flank scout or something, watching down here so that nothing surprises you. Like if their whole team comes from IT and everyone's back here, you're not going to know about it until they're suddenly over here launching on you, or suddenly over here launching into you, and you'll know too late. So someone has to know about it, right? So you're probably going to leave your flank scout watching here. Again, roamers might be sitting here or pocket, and they're ready to spam them. And maybe if they're all clumped up, you can rocket jump into them and get sacrifice your life for a force of the medic's Uber, the enemy medic's Uber. That might be worth it. But like I said, soldiers and scouts can be a little more forward because they can really quickly run away and rocket jump away. Demo and medic, you have to play properly. If you're a few steps too far forward, like if you're here as medic and the enemy team is quick and launches really hard with their Uber, this is already too far. This is like, oh, I'm gonna run away. No, you can't. You get bombed here, you get juggled up in the air, and then you get air shot right here. And that's already too far forward. You were too far forward. So, how to hold this normally in an even situation? Well, your medic's going to hang out probably somewhere around here. Your Demoman will be somewhere around here, keeping pressure on the choke. Pocket is also with them anywhere around here. Combo Scout, you want to maintain height. You want to hang out somewhere here, maybe jump from here to here. You want to maintain height so that usually the most common thing is a soldier is going to fly in. You're going to be ready to slap them out of the air and defend your medic. And as far as the flank, your roamer, this is the most important thing for you to watch is IT. This is nice because you have access to a health pack here. As soon as you cross this point, you go into their side of IT. This is their realm, and it's super dangerous and rarely worth it. So if you're going to go on risky adventures, at least get a buff first and make sure your other players are ready to back you up, or your scout or whatever. But generally, roamer's going to hold this down. Flank scout, I liked him to hang out over here because then he's watching IT as a flank. He's ready to go and able to be helping the roamer. But he can also go over here and help in a fight in the main area if that's what it takes. As far as sewer, this belongs to the guys at middle. You don't want to spend too much time as the people on second going into sewer over here. Whoops. Looks like I might have to reset myself. But yeah, if you're sitting in here, it's trouble because from middle they can like suddenly push guys into here. And they can suddenly jump guys in from the side here and just overwhelm you and crush you. So you don't want to spend much of time there. It's something you want to do sparingly. Okay, that's 2. Let's talk about middle. If we're holding middle like we're about to leave, then your medic and demo are going to be somewhere back here, ready to skedaddle out of choke. Or you could be over here. That's also an option. Or I suppose it's possible to be here, but this one's a little bit sketchy because you have to go all the way here and all the way out. And by the time you do this run, if they're fast, they can go over here and potentially cut you off and get you. So you want to hold nice and far back. Again, I'm not going to specifically say soldiers and scouts. You know, take high ground. All these positions where you can spam them from, where you can see them coming in ahead of time. You don't want it to be a surprise where they're coming from. This is a very common spot, the awning for a roaming soldier or whatever. Usually a soldier will sit here. And if you distract them, that they're going to come through choke, for example. If your guys are shooting at them, they're not paying attention, you do a rocket jump up here and go boom, and you land on their medic. Force their medic or drop him or kill people, whatever. That's an effective play. Of course, anyone with any experience is going to realize that, and they're going to check this awning immediately as soon as you know, you're always going to expect there to be a guy making the awning play. If the team is ready for you, they're probably going to own you really hard. Unless you are just a little bit better and you hit all your shots and they can't hit you and blah, blah, blah. Or again, they don't see it coming. But that's their fault if they don't see it coming. How do you hold normally on middle if it's an even situation? Well, your Demoman's going to be right here. Pressure on the choke. Your medic's going to be around here somewhere, ready to heal this demo. Pocket and Combo Scout, you're just going to hang out around here, generally. And again, roamer's going to watch in here. And Flank Scout can also just kind of hang out here. There's really no need to rush, like I said, both of your flank through here. It's a big risk. And as soon as you cross into here, you're in their realm. Stuff can suddenly pop out from this wall. You won't even see it. They have access to a health pack here, so very dangerous. Usually not worth going on adventures here. And as a scout, you just want to avoid running in here most of the time because it's very risky. Soldiers will just destroy you in there, right? It's a close quarters area. If I'm a flank scout and my roamer is going to go and make a sack play and, you know, go die over here, it's going to be my job to watch this. And I'm going to do it a very passive way. I'm going to sit up here in this box, and I'm going to look. I'm not going to kill anyone probably unless they just, I don't know, hold W at me, and I'm going to just shoot them and shoot them and shoot them. But nothing's going to surprise me, right? Because I'm actually watching this flank. So if suddenly their roamer goes to counter sack onto our medic, whoa, 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 there he is. I see him. Bam, bam, I'm shooting him. He's going to decide to change his mind. Or he's going to walk through me and not change his mind, but I already called him. And I'm going to do a bunch of damage, and then my pocket soldier's going to go, what? There's a guy back here? And he's going to shoot a rocket and kill him. Or the demo, whatever. Everyone's going to shoot him. It's going to fail. So always watch the flank. This, not as important. It's not as important, once again, to spend much time in here, although you do own this as the players that own middle. You can do a little bit of freedom here, but wait, you don't want to have like your flank hanging out in here. If both of your flanks hanging out in here, then no one's watching this, then well, suddenly their flank players will be like, what the hell, no one's watching this? Okay, and you get in and force your medic or do some kind of other nasty deeds. You don't want that. Remember, most important thing of flank is to watch it, not necessarily be there to stuff it, call it so nothing surprises your team. Okay, and now we're getting into the enemy second. If we took this point, but their medic got out, and now they're going to have Uber first, that means they're going to push out, right? We're going to hold our medic back here. Medic and demo somewhere back here so you can see things from far away and leave, okay? And as far as soldiers, scouts, again, you have freedom to do what you want. This is a great place to sit on the point, obviously. You know, right here by the forward spawn. There's all these little hidey places where you can be a soldier, where you can try to find people early, put sticky traps, whatever. As far as holding normally, you're just going to be out here. There's really no... Just sit on the high ground, have stickies where you need them, ready to shoot rockets, ready to lock things down.
This isn't a bad place to sit from time to time to lock down things. Even when you're passive, soldiers can sit here and be a nuisance. And that's about it. Obviously, you can aggressively take lobby at a certain point, but you don't have to hold lobby as a team. It's kind of a no man's land where they can suddenly push in and own you. You can suddenly push in and own them if they're overextended, etc., etc. And that about covers the entire map. I tried to talk as quick as I can. I still feel like that took a really long time, but hopefully that'll be a little bit helpful.